Hey, I'm James McDougall.
I'm Lexi Grabowski.
I'm Briar Knowles.
My name is Jessica Malka.
I'm Christy Murdoch.
It's Alaska Lee.
I am Natasha Prasad.
I'm Megan Hemingway.
I'm Leanne Johnson.
My name is Snezhana Baikova.
I'm Kate Schroeder.
My name is Natasha Hurlbert.
My name is Rachel.
My name is Deborah Lee Smith.
I'm Rebecca Amzalag.
And I'm an actress and producer.
I'm an actress based in New York City.
Writer, actress.
I'm an actor.
Actor and filmmaker.
I'm an actress based in Los Angeles.
And I'm an actor, singer-songwriter.
I'm an actress.
I'm a model actress based out of Calgary, Alberta.
I'm an actor and a musician.
I am an actress based in Toronto, and I want to thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching.
And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chat with Dan show.
I want to start this conversation by throwing out this question, which is, what would you like to have told to yourself before becoming an actor?
I'll share mine. I was so full of myself back then, I probably wouldn't listen anyways. But I would tell myself to stop putting time limits on my career. If I don't make it in 3 to 5 years, I'm out, or I'm not a real actor. Like, I'm in it for as long as I love it, period. I would tell myself to stop putting financial pressure on my acting career, where I have to be making a certain amount, or I have to be at a certain point by a certain time. Again, timeline and a financial pressure. And I would tell myself to a lot of things, but enjoy the journey versus the destination. I think when I was younger, I was so focused on the destination, whether it's a credit or an award, or being at a like the final result, versus like really enjoying the journey of it. And I feel like now I'm finally at a place where I'm in it for as long as I love it, and I'm really just enjoy the day-to-day of being an actor, versus being happy only when I'm on set, or achieve the next thing. So that's what I would tell myself. I don't know if I would have listened, but
yeah, I 100% agree with enjoying the journey piece of it, because everyone's way to get there is completely different. You never know what's going to happen. You have like other life stuff going on too. So yeah, 100% with you. I also, lived in full-time world as an assistant director in human resources for almost 10 years before I made the jump. And it took me a long time to transition out of that and think of acting as a potential real and realistic career, especially as a single mom, like figuring out how to balance it and then being like, yes, this is something that I love and something I'm good at and something that I can make work.
Those are great answers. Like, I think what Anastasia was saying about the timeline thing is something I feel like that never goes away. Like, we always have to check in with ourselves and ask ourselves why we're doing this and what it's fulfilling in our hearts and in our lives, because it's really challenging. I think I would have told myself something similar, like, don't put pressure on yourself and really learn how to enjoy simply becoming better at something, like learning about the industry, learning about myself as a performer and as an artist. Like, if that is what I'm gaining joy from, then that's enough. And it just feels like it's something that is so hard to actually do, because we've heard it 1,000 times. Like, I remember every acting teacher I ever had said, like, enjoy the journey. And it's like, well, what does that actually mean? Like, how do I actually do that? And I feel like that's like, it's not just about acting, but it's also about life as well. Like, how do we tune in and become present and non-judgmental of ourselves and the people in our lives? And so I would have said, enjoy the journey and don't put time limits on yourself. Check in and see how you can enjoy the process of growing and let that be your success. But I don't like what Anastasia said. I don't think I would have listened or like even understood what that meant, because I had already heard it 1,000 times. So hearing it from myself 1,001, I would have been like, yeah, but that's what everybody says. But it's actually so true. And it feels like one of the challenges of acting is like feeling like you're not progressing or you're not going fast enough or you're not seeing the results you want. But part of that is because like we're coming up against the same blocks, which is our own self, like our own thoughts and our self-esteem, and we're working with that and against that to kind of become the most fluid instrument possible. So it's hard to feel like you're making progress when you're looking at the same stuff. And it's just your own brain and, you know, your own beliefs that are, you know, holding you back and all that kind of stuff. But you have to, we have to trust that we are making progress, even though we're looking at the same stuff in the mirror, just in a different arrangement, you know, that is, the work is happening and it's making a difference. And so I would say, yeah, it's like, that's a very long answer, but it's just incredibly complicated because I was like thinking about that question and I was like, there's nothing I could really say. Like, I wish there was something beautiful and succinct I could tell myself that I would believe. And I'm like, I don't think there is, which is.
Yeah, when I was thinking about that question too, I was also like thinking there's actually something that my younger self would have taught me now too, because back then, at least for me, because I didn't know much about the industry, I actually was taking more risks. I was really kind of ballsy at the time. Or maybe it was something like moving from Russia and I don't know what it was, but I literally was pitching myself on the phone with an agent, got in with an agent, all these like weird shit that I would never, I don't know if we can say shit on here, but
yeah, it's okay,
I would never do now. But like, I wish I had that courage.
Yeah.
With the knowledge that I have now. So it's interesting. I feel like what you have said, Emmy, is it Emmy or we have two Amy's?
Yes, Emmy. It's Emmy.
Emmy, is that the journey looks different at different points in our career, and progress is like, how do we define it? Because it's truly is different for everyone. That is so true. Yeah. Sorry, I just jumped in.
No, love it.
No, it's awesome. I think for me, it would have been kind of like same thing with timeline, is just to get comfortable. These are crafts of a lifetime that take a lifetime to master. And some people, luck is also a factor for some people when it comes to fame and money, but whether they're actually exploring the craft and getting better at the craft is, I think, a different thing. So I think, with that timeline, I think when I was younger too, I was so focused on the destination. But I would tell myself to just get relaxed, get comfy, dive in, find as much knowledge as I can. And I think it's really important in these industries, working in the entertainment industry, I'm a singer-songwriter as well, to your sense of worth has to come from the inside out in order to be able to sustain yourself for the long term in these industries. And I think that's something I have better at now, but at the beginning that was very hard. Like, it was very outside in. So all the rejection hits harder. Yeah, just get comfy. Relax.
Chill out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, what has surprised you the most about the profession of being an actor?
I guess what would surprise me is how much of an acting job is to audition and the in between the gigs. I feel like when I was younger, looking at the screen and looking at actors working, I'm just was imagining, you know, the on-set life and how would it be to prepare, how would it be to, and majority of what we do is audition. That's what your life, like, that's what your job is actually as an actor, is to audition. And then you get a gig and you'll work for a few weeks or a few days or maybe a few months, which doesn't really happen unless you're like a serious regular on the show, right? And even then, I think we have this assumption that they're working all the time. Like, that's not the case. They work and then they don't work for a year or two, or then they work 2 projects a year. So I think if someone would have told me like, hey, this is what the lifestyle of an actor would actually look like, especially now with the pandemic, like you would be in your box self-taping and then you'd be on class and then you will get a gig and then you'll be again auditioning and self-taping and in class. And that was the non-glamorous side of it. I guess I would I don't know if it would sway me away from pursuing it because I was gun-ho and I just really love the craft. But that was a realization for me. It's like your job as an actress to audition, and the lifestyle is not the gig. It's not you working on set. It's all the in-between.
I think for me, one of the things that surprised me, I grew up doing theater and I grew up being a live performer until I moved mostly to Vancouver a couple years ago. In theater, it's very much about craft and how much skill you have, and not as much about a look or a height to fit a certain thing. So I was always bred and raised to always just be really good at what I do and not so much worry about the other stuff. I think one of the things that has surprised me here in the screen acting world is actually your look, your height, your all those other things, your relationships, your connections have a lot more to do with landing roles, landing gigs, and landing opportunities, which is maybe not super fun and happy. But I think that's one of the things that I've realized is I love doing classes about comedy. Like when I see like, oh my God, there's a comedy class where we just get to focus about the craft of comedy and the mechanics and the psychology of it, that excites me. But then I have to choose between that and a casting director workshop where you get FaceTime with the casting director, which can increase your chance of getting an audition with them. And when I first got here, I thought, I'm so excited to take scene study. I'm so excited to do comedy. I'm so excited to do all this stuff. But now I've realized I actually have to put my money into these CD workshops because that in the end is what's going to get me further. So that's one of the things that's kind of surprised me, has been sort of a growing up lesson for me about the acting world and the business side of it and making progress in the business versus the craft. Yeah, that's one of the things for me.
It's a really good point.
One of the things that surprised me, it's very similar to what Natasha and Anastasia said in terms of like just how it actually works and what you think it is, because you think it is like class, because that's where most of us are first introduced. We think it's like theater, or we think it's like class, and like it kind of is, but it's only like a tiny portion of it is actually that, and most of it is made up of other things like networking, getting your materials together, making sure you have, reels and headshots, and you have everything, it's a lot of other stuff, and then auditioning. So it's like what you thought it was and what it is that, but it's like less of that than you expect or than I expected, which is why I think it's so important to find a way to like retain the love of the craft and put yourself out there, but also trust that things will come to you at the right time and at the time that they're meant to come, and that your preparation, like, it matters. It will pay off to be prepared and to really have your craft down and know who you are as an artist and all of that. But it's hard because there's so much noise saying like, you should do this, you should do that, what are you doing? And, advertisements for actors, like, you should take this, you should do that. It's just a lot. So you constantly have to check in and be like, well, where am I? Who am I? What do I want? What does my soul need? What does my business need? All that kind of stuff at the same time. And then another thing that kind of surprised me, but this is like less about acting, but kind of was like how, because I got into directing, and what genuinely surprised me about coming here was how I would fall in love with directing. I was not expecting that. That was not on my like to-do list. I also it was weird. It sounds stereotypical, but like I didn't think women directed. Like, even though, you hear, about Greta Gerwig and all these people doing it, it's just like, it just didn't really cross my mind until I started doing it. And then I was like, oh my God, this is just a whole new way to approach storytelling. And it's like completely different, than acting. It really is. It's like a completely different muscle, completely different thing, completely different. But coming from an acting background, like, really helps me communicate with actors and understand what actors are going through and cast actors because I know actors, so it all like feeds in to each other. But that was something that really surprised me, was just how much I loved directing and how natural it felt on me. Yeah, just like with my personality and everything, sometimes I feel like acting, I struggle a little with the lack of control. And with directing, I feel like I have a lot more control. So it relaxes me to have more control. Yeah, so that was so I'm like working on short films and feature films right now as a director. And that's definitely not something that I was expecting to do. So life can definitely surprise you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah. So cool. I'll just add like a tiny bit because those are all awesome. I also started in theater, and just coming to the film world and how it's done so different, like similar approach to how I, go through the whole character backstory, but in theater, like that shit is memorized before you start blocking. When it comes to film, I know everything. I know the character. I'm not memorized until, we need it for that scene. I know it all, and I know the ups and downs and where it's going, but I wouldn't call it memorized in the same sort of way. And maybe that's because you're so close to the camera that so much of it is that kind of internal thought process. So knowing that part of the character and who you are comes across a lot easier in those subtleties, as opposed to like really honing in on the specific words. Like those come once you know everything within you. So just feeling that difference, seeing that difference in the film world, and you have so many opportunities to do it from this angle and this angle and this angle, and then run from point A to point B, and then do it here. And yeah,
That's badass. All the answers were bad. I mean, I will drop this mic, but since I got it stuck, now I can't drop it anymore. Dang it. But yeah, that's badass. I love it. I love it. Now, do you feel as actors that you are not doing something meaningful enough, or like there is a purpose to it?
That's a really good question. I think like, but that's like part of the thing that I was talking about before, where you have to constantly check in with yourself. I think it's like I'm at this moment right now feeling like it's incredibly important. Like what actors do, I'm like getting emotional. Like what actors do is incredibly important. And we don't get enough recognition unless you're an A-list celebrity for the work that is done and how important it is to kind of have people in the world who go around and show us ourselves and show us the foibles and the mistakes and the good things about us and the bad things about us, and they just put themselves out there on display, all of it. And it's like actors are just the most incredible, like they're like doctors. I think they're as important as doctors. It's like we need actors as much as we need doctors to like help us understand ourselves and our reality and show us that what we go through, we're not alone. And it's different than therapy, like because there's this escape element to it as well. It's like if you come at looking at yourself and the world through a more playful lens, it's like what can come out of it. It's like, oh, this is just pretend, and then it's not just pretend, or it is fun and light and playful, but it can be anything. But there's just something, yeah, I'm like obsessed with actors. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I love your answer, Emmy, and I 100% agree. And every time we see an actor or a character, there's there's something that we see within ourselves, something that we can relate to. And whether it's, something little or just hits home on something you're working on or struggling with, or like a serious past trauma, seeing that in someone else can start to get those wheels turning to work on something within yourself, like figuring it out on your own, or, something that's really positive and just being able to feel that with them and be like, yeah, I need this. It's cold and snowy and I have no sun. I need some like smiles. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Totally.
I did question it too, just because I'd come from a background where I had a lot of artists around me, or anything like that. There was a lot of people working in like healthcare and stuff. So when I made the departure to do what I did, I definitely had that sense of like what I'm doing is frivolous and selfish type of thing. But I've learned now, especially post COVID, that what I do has so much meaning. Like, who would have survived that period during COVID without actors and without singers, songwriters, and artists in general? I don't think people realize how meaningful art is until it becomes a necessity for them, until it is like they need to go through a death, they need to go through a trauma or something and process it. And it becomes art that is what enables them to survive. So I have no questions. And I think COVID was a big part of that, where we weren't deemed essential workers. But then I look around and I think a lot of artists were the reason how essential workers were able to even survive and do what they needed to do. So I have absolutely no questions. And I think being an actor for as long as I've learned that being an actor is a job of service. Like, my job is to completely put my ego to the side, leave that at the door, and serve my character and tell their story to the best ability that I can for the time that I'm with them. And to me, it is a job of service and sacrifice. So at first I felt that, but the complete opposite. We're so
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think it got us through the pandemic for sure. On one hand, I think, I know, I have different thoughts too. On one hand, I'm like, you're not saving lives. Chill out. Like, don't take, in the sense that don't take yourself so seriously. Don't be like, I'm an actor. I think like when I was younger, I was very much like, oh, I have a process to this. Just like, hey, you're playing pretend, just chill. On the other side of it, like, exactly agree with everyone here, is like, we have, I feel like, almost a direct impact on the humanity. I think so often we go day to day kind of robotic. And I think what connects us to our emotions often is through art. And it is a form of escapism for sure, where we just gets us through the day. Maybe it literally, a film can get someone through a day, or it might remind them of something, or it can, I feel like it has a profound impact in that sense. And selfishly, like, I don't know if it's selfish or not, but I believe my purpose is to share my talents and fulfill my passion and do what I love, if that makes sense. That's what I'm like. Now that I have a family, I have a son, and like, my purpose is my family, but my other purpose is to share the gift that I have and impact the world in that. So there's like a personal perspective, and then us, what we do as a collective as artists, I think is extremely important. And also I feel like in the world of all the technology right now that's taking over, AI, all these things, like, people are getting replaced. I feel like one thing that I hope, there's a conversation about actors being replaced, but I hope that one thing that could not be replaced is, again, it's that humanity side. It's the heart, it's the pain, it's the ugly, it's the good and the bad. And I think we're kind of showcasing that, like, we're putting a mirror to the society of, that's reflected back at them. So in that case, I think it's profoundly important.
Yeah. I love those answers as well. And I do think, it's incredible how much a film or a TV show can move someone. We can see it most of the time whenever there's this film got released and it got this very deep message, and then you will see everyone talking about it, and even some people can have like a different idea of a topic that they knew before. You know what I mean? I mean, I do think that it's incredible how much can the whole acting can move someone, you know? And and I would also like that if at some point more people can know about all the amount of actors that are not on the A list, let's say, you know, that there are this huge amount of. I mean, back when I started this platform, for example, as when I started until right now, and being able to speak with so many people, I mean, it's kind of the it's. I was talking about that with a friend of mine the other day that there's this other. I mean, there's these actors who perhaps they are not in this huge budget film, but what they do it's incredible, and it's even more amazing that they managed to create really amazing stories, sometimes with even a little budget, you know.
Well, thanks to you for shining the light on those artists and bringing them here and giving them a space to, to share their gifts. Because you're right. I think a lot of working actors, are not really getting the spotlight, really, because everything is about, the creme de la creme, which is fine. But a big part of what makes the acting community is on the back of the working actors, right?
Yeah. And also the other thing that I want to add, it's because also when I started, I remember that some friends of mine were telling me like, "Oh, are you sure that you're able to handle their ego? You know, and it's gonna be, all these celebrities. Are you sure about that?" But till this day, I mean, everyone has been pretty cool. I haven't met someone who be like super, be treated like, oh, this is me and the world is in the palm of my hand. You know what I mean? Like everyone has been super sweet, super cool, super friendly. And I was also talking about that image that some people might think is not true. I mean, there's this huge community and they will treat everyone real cool. And if you are interested about it, they will gladly be answering questions if you want to know about the whole industry, or if you want to pursue acting. I mean, they will give you a hand, and they will perhaps recommend you to an acting school, things like that. So that image too, I find it now funny that because of the media, that they will be treating actors as this huge almighty people, that they're not allowed to make mistakes, and that this and like things like that. But no, they're humans too, and they're just making a living on something different, as some people do, you know what I mean? So
Completely agree. There's an old narrative that actors are like full of themselves, and like as actors we have to always collaborate with other artists. Like we're not the only one on set. Like there's usually a ton of people on set or in the theater production, so we have to be collaborative, and like there's no space for an ego. So I think there's just like this old adage, like narrative, that's just should just go away already. Like that's not true.
And it's totally also a stereotype in the industry that actors are the fun ones. Like actors are the ones you want to hang out with and go party with, And it's like, that's because actors in general are really fun and cool and like, make you feel at ease because they're just cool and comfortable. And so then you're like, oh, I can be cool and comfortable too because they're cool, And that's why actors are like stars, because they bring that like, I'm cool and you're cool thing that can be so healing to people. That it's like, I don't know, but that's the stereotype of actors in the industry that's like not talked about, because everyone's like, oh, actors are so difficult. And it's like, yeah, not till season 3 of a TV show, and that's how many shows make it to season 3, so it's like, I don't really know where that's coming from. but yeah, actors are the best because they're so friendly and like used to so much rejection that you just have to be cool. That's the only option, is to just enjoy what you get when you get it with whom you're getting it with. That was terrible grammar, but you know what I mean. With whom you're with when it happens.
I love that. I love the thought that people think I'm cool and comfortable. I don't think that much of myself, but that's awesome. I think
that's what people think. Also, you're all beautiful, and so people love beautiful people. And it's like, it's just weird. Like beauty definitely holds power. Whether it should or not is another question, but it does. And so I don't know. It matters.
Oh, that's That's awesome. I think it's a really good point too that you bring up about how we go through so much rejection. And I think that that can really also have an effect on a person and how they show up in the world too. So maybe part of that being difficult or maybe sometimes being perceived as not friendly is maybe just like a thick skin and hard shell that's had to be built to survive. Um, being in this industry too, what some people may perceive as not nice or difficult too. But it's a really tough job. It's a lot of rejection.
Yeah. And I also wonder sometimes if that stereotype or reputation has been put out there to keep actors from voicing their concerns and like banding together and actually asking for things, because actors typically don't have a lot of power and they're just going job to job, like taking whatever they can get. So I wonder, I have always wondered if that's part of it. It's like we want to keep actors quiet, just doing what we say, taking the pay we offer, and that's that. But I do think, I personally wish like SAG had more power. The WGA has power because they're united and on the same page. And I wish SAG, I don't think it can get there, but I can wish, and I can say it, that I wish SAG had more unity.
Now, is there any kind of character that you would refuse to play, maybe because the type of message is not something that you believe in?
Oh yeah. I don't necessarily have it down to a specific thing, but there are definitely things that I wouldn't do, or character elements that are enough against what I believe in that I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. I mean, that's more of a hard thing. The easier ones are like things that I'm definitely not going to do, like in terms of nudity. I think it gets harder when it is like a personal, political, or religious viewpoint, because none of those are either necessarily bad things, and getting into that character, not judging the character before you kind of see it from their point of view is tough to figure out. So I think that always comes back to really knowing yourself and then being able to speak up for yourself and be like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. And being able to realize that and say it. And regardless if that could be your claim to fame kind of thing, it doesn't matter if it really like fucks up your morals. There's got to be a line.
I don't have a problem playing morally diverse or horrible people. I don't really go out for those often, just based on my essence and the types of roles that are coming my way. But I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have is with the message of the project. If the message of the project is to perpetuate ideas that I'm morally against, then I have a problem with a character, with a whole, like I'm not signing up in a project that's pushing the idea that I'm morally against, but I don't have a problem playing the problem, if you know what I mean, playing the problem to shine the light on the bigger issue. So there's that separation for me, the project versus the character. Now, oftentimes we don't really have the full script. So that's where it gets a little tricky. I think actors have to we have more control than we think we do. And I think often actors don't request a script, and often casting even says like, actors just don't email me to ask for a script, but you can actually do that. At least with the indie projects, obviously if it's a bigger scale, but if it's a bigger scale, you know the people that are attached. So you know what their other projects they've done in the past. So like, again, it comes down to the research and like stepping into your power, and it's okay to say no, right? So for me, there's that separation between a line and a project. And then, yeah, I agree with Amy, like nudity for me, like from day one was a no. Like I even had big recurring character on an episodic, which was just an audition back in the very beginning when I was starting out. And it was a stripper role. And obviously, I'm Russian at the time. I had a thicker accent too. So it was just like those roles were just like flying in, And it wasn't a nude character. It was a network episodic. So clearly it was an NBC. So depending on the network, it wasn't HBO or anything. So it wouldn't have been actual nudity. But I said no to it and I was terrified and nothing. It was fine. The casting director actually gave me a job on another TV project. It was my first TV that I booked at the time. So what I'm trying to say is that it's okay to say no. So yeah, nudity is a big one for me. I don't care who it is. Martin Scorsese can call me tomorrow. Like literally, I don't give a shit. It's a no. It's my moral, and it's okay if people do it. Like I'm not judging. It's just like my own, you know. And the other conversation I have in my house is, you know, I'm married. I have a 3-year-old, and my husband's not an actor. And we've had a lot of conversation in the household, especially when I was younger, and still like a go for love interest-y types roles in the indie space and sometimes in the network television. And we have conversations. Hey, what are we okay with? What's kind of uncomfortable? What's the, you know, and then things do go into like, hey, this is a really big credit, or there's this, there's this, that, like, but we have conversations about that. It's not like, oh yeah, like just sign up for the project, because there's this other aspect of my life that I have to consider now too. So there are a lot of pieces, but I do want to say though, and I always tell my clients too, is that if you are uncomfortable with whether it's nudity or whether it's, I don't know, tobacco commercial or alcohol, whatever that is, communicate with your reps. Because oftentimes actors get auditions and then they get pissed at their agents like, oh, I don't like, why? I'm like, just tell them. I have a client, she's 73 years old. I have a client from 14 to 73. And I'm a business coach. I help actors with the business side. And she's in the Atlanta market. And she is a very religious person. She never swears in her real life. So she got an HBO audition, her character, and she just morally wasn't like, you know, so she had to talk to an agent, and an agent was completely fine with it. But I was like, again, let's have this conversation before you get an audition, because getting an audition is already a win. That means someone else didn't get it. You got it, right? So it's like, I think that thing that we don't think about is like, communicate with your reps, figure out what it is, communicate with your reps. And if it's just a shitty project that, or the message of the project goes against your moral values, it's okay to say no. Doesn't matter who it is, in my book. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. I think every actor, like the journey to figuring out what your boundaries are, in terms of things like nudity, and then also the content of what you may be working on is different, and everyone's boundaries will be different. And it's just that you have to know yourself, and what your things are is going to be totally different than the next person. But it's totally okay to say no to those things.
And those boundaries can change too as we, right? Like it's not like set in stone. I had a client who did not want to do any cop shows. And she was in the Chicago procedural market, where it's just like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago. She's like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, okay, just keep in mind that that's a big part of what your market is casting, and how, like, again, it's a personal choice. She's like, I don't want to perpetuate this idea, and this is my political view and whatever. And, you know, so it's just, there's a lot of puzzle pieces to this.
Moving forward here for the next question. Tell me, guys, do you take home your characters? And has that ever affected you in a negative way?
It has. I wish I was like, no, I'm really good at not bringing home my character. I think now that I'm getting more experience, I'm getting older, I'm better at it. But I've definitely had experiences like way too many times where I'm like, I can't shake something about the character, whether it's like their emotional life or their feelings on something. It's actually been hard for me to do that. I think, yeah, there's so many like ways, tools like meditation and like physical exercises to help you kind of like, delineate the space between your work and your personal life, your home life. And it helps. But yeah, I've actually really struggled with that in the past. Especially when it's really heavy, like really dark or very emotional, or because it's like we as humans in this society, we are trained not to kind of psychologically go there to those places so we can have our lives and everything's fine. So like electing to go to those places, you have to like do a lot of stripping of your normal day-to-day mental barriers. And so sometimes putting them back up is hard because you've like spent all this energy taking them down for the role and what that person is going through. But yeah, it has definitely more than once. come home with me. And then I, you know, eventually it goes away and it's fine. But sometimes a character can really leave a mark on you, especially in theater or I would imagine if you're doing a series regular on a show where any character you're going to over and over again, they really leave a mark on you. It's like they're part of you. It's really weird.
Yeah, definitely experienced that as well, especially when I was a new actor. I remember in high school I was playing my first villain role. It was in musical theater, so it wasn't like super, super dark, but I remember coming home and just being like yelling and screaming a lot. And my dad was like, "What's the matter with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, what is the matter with me?"
Hang on, why?
It's like I need to calm down when I come home. I was like, "Whoa." And I was so young back then. I didn't know anything about what was happening to me or anything. That was sort of the first time when it happened, and I was bringing my attitude home. I had to stop that. And then in 2014 was the first time I did a professional show outside of university with a lot of veteran actors that had a lot more experience than me. And it was a 3-act theater show. It was like 3 hours. I'd never done anything like that. And at that intensity and that pace, I got so physically sick by the end, and I didn't understand what was happening to me. I thought I had stomach flu, and I kept taking like all this stuff from my stomach to get through the show. But by the last couple shows, I had like grocery bags stuffed into my costume because I didn't know what to do anymore. Like there's no understudies like in theater unless you're at the Broadway level. I didn't know what to do. So I was like, well, I guess I will just walk off the stage. I'll like throw up. I'll like leave it there and I'll come back on and keep going because I don't know what to do. And I didn't understand what was happening, but I was physically ill for like a month and going to doctors. And that was the first time where I found out like how much emotions are connected to your physical well-being and like how that can happen. But that was wild. I've never done that, and I didn't know what was happening to me until way after. It was wild. And I've been to therapists and counselors who have helped me build pre-show, post-show rituals to kind of like get into character and then come back out of character, go home with life. Because you have to learn. You have to. Because you can get really sick.
I had something similar with Chekhov. When I did Chekhov, it was like I had physical. It's funny you mentioned that because I was having physical problems. And it was because it was just so emotionally charged all the time, every day.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed about those veteran actors was after we would do something really dark, we would get a break and they would like, just like be able to snap out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, I was like, oh, like I'm still sitting here sort of like calming down throughout the break, but they were like chatting and laughing, and I was like, oh man, like I don't know something, like I know there's something I need to figure out, right? It's a journey. But yeah, it's been very interesting ride, but I'm much better at it now.
Anyone else?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the process and part of the journey and part of the behind the scenes that you don't see in the actor's life until like it's an A-lister and becomes something outward that gets publicized in probably an awful way. But it's certainly real, and being able to become aware of it within yourself and figure out, like Natasha said, the pre and the post, like how to get into that character and how to break it so you can get back to yourself and back to your life is super important. And for me, it was always the hardest when it was a character that was almost easier to relate to, like the single mom roles that are struggling with something. I'm like, oh shit, this is easy, it's me. Oh wait, it's actually like really difficult because it's close enough that sometimes I keep it with me when I go home. Like, I can't do that. I need to figure out a way to get out of this cycle.
That's interesting. I do think that it depends on the character, on the role. I tend to go out for a lot of, oh, I'm sorry, I'm blowing up my phone. I lost you. I go out for a lot of, especially when I was younger, for a lot of like victim roles where like shit's going down and I'm freaking out, and you know, and I was so used to it, like that was my go-to because I was comfortable at playing, and I'm naturally hyper, so it was easy for me to get into that panicky state. But it definitely was a journey to get me to a place to where I can get in, get out without, because when I was younger, I remember I was working on a film where I had to play a young girl who suffers with schizophrenia. She was in a mental institution, and it was like an indie film, but it was very intense. Like they were like, it was a small like a cell thing that we were shooting at, so the place was very claustrophobic, and I had to go through a lot. It was a lot of, and that's where my anxiety really kicked in. I mean, I have anxiety disorder in general that I didn't know at the time, so it really triggered things for me, physical symptoms that kind of went on. And it was a project that I'm really proud of, because to this day it was like the most creatively, I don't know, engaged that I felt, and the crew was incredible. It got into so many film festivals. It awarded me my first Best Actress. Like, it was an amazing experience. So I wouldn't change it, but that definitely taught me that, hey, like you need to have some tools in your toolbox to be able to handle it. And I still go out for a lot of like victim, especially in the procedural television, like on Chicago Fire. I was like, oh, I had internal decapitation, and this person is saving me, and whatever. And in audition, you do it a couple times, you're out. On set, you have to do it over and over and over. And what I realized too, in terms of like giving, I kept giving and giving and giving, but when it would actually got to my close-up, I had nothing else to give. I was so exhausted. And what I realized is, like, Monica Raymond, who's tremendous in Chicago Fire, she was just like, she was giving me a lot, but she was kept keeping it in until it was her close-up, and then she was just there. It's like, fuck, like, again, like, you learn as you go as to how to even engage, how much to give of yourself, and then also knowing the role. Do you need additional tools to then cope, afterwards? And it's just, yeah, it's all a learning curve, and depends on the project for me, for sure. Oh, you muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, my dogs were just barking a lot, so I was like, I'm gonna mute myself for a second. But anyway, right, moving on here. Now, since Leanne, you just tuned in here, I'm gonna ask you this question to you, and then whoever wants to answer first, that's fine. So here we go. What has been your toughest moment so far as an actor?
Getting to be the second pick of a major role, and knowing that you were that close, having a conversation with the director, and so understanding it's not necessarily all about talent.
Ouch, I feel it in my heart. I know the pain, girl. It sucks.
Yeah. No. I think that's the most helpless feeling.
But I do want to add to that real quick, because I feel like often I think that every time we do a self-tape, or every time we get a feedback or a callback or a pin, we're putting a deposit into our acting career. I've had so many stories where this actor didn't get this role, but the self-tape traveled. Like, literally, this one example that she's now on a morning show with Jennifer Aniston, and the casting director remembered her. Now the casting director is a head of Apple TV Plus of the casting department. She remembered her. She called her in directly for a recurring character. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, right now it might feel like a heartbreak, but if that director remembered you in that self-tape, all of the work that you put in, it's not gone. It's gonna pay its dividends maybe a month from now, maybe a year from now, maybe 3 years from now. But also you can leverage that and use it as a pitch self-tape. Every time we have any sort of momentum in our career, we got to leverage it. Right? Speaking of the business side. So I think a pin is a win, a callback is a win, an audition is a win. So I just want to give you some love, because truly it's a win. You did not lose, you won.
I think there's a lot of truth to what you have to say about that. And I think that it's important for us to know that. I also, believe that it's important as actors in the community to like allow ourselves to feel that grief too. Like, and I think that as actors, it's like, there's a lot of things that we can't publicize, and we can't, like, we can celebrate that, but very few people will be able to know the detail or how high level that was, how close you got because of confidentiality. And I love what you said, Anastasia. I love what you said, because with other actors, we understand that, and we can celebrate getting that close.
Right.
And there's that feeling, and also that willingness to be like, hey, that's great, I'm celebrating with you, but like, yeah, those tears are hard, because you're going to see that person on screen, and it's you want to celebrate their victory too, and just knowing that you have other actors like on this call right now that understand and have been there. So, but I would say most recently, Dan, to answer your question, that has been the hardest thing, maybe just because it happened yesterday. So,
super fresh.
Yeah. Being cut out of the project. That's happened to me numerous times. That sucks. So you get the part, especially if it's a network TV and you know it's going to be a juicy credit and it's like, nah, you're out. On one hand, it's like, oh, cool, you can audition again for the show. But again, you have to audition, you have to get a callback, you have to get a... So for me, recently, it's been some cuts.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's tough.
Yeah.
So sorry.
But the pain never goes away in this industry. There's always something. Whether it's your pilot didn't get picked up or you didn't get the heartbreaks are always there. But I feel like there's, silver lining in all of it. We gotta believe that, because only one person gets the job, right? That's just
It ties in with your previous question too, Dan, about y'all were talking about bringing the character roles home with you. It's intense when you feel a connection, even in the audition process or even in that process where you're in preparation, and to act and to perform and to viscerally work through those emotions on a set in a role. There is some form of release, there is some form of bond, but to be unable to then do that after forming a connection is also a grieving thing. It is a beautiful art, and I'm very thankful to be an artist. But yeah, thanks for the question. I appreciate it.
We also worked up a fun game on the app.
It's like going to church camp, kind of.
Get it real slow or I'll blow your...
If you could enact, what would you pursue?
I'm a singer-songwriter as well, so I really, really love music. Music I find is an even tougher industry than acting, though. So acting is like the safe, stable thing to do for me. So, but that's my other love and passion in life. So yeah, that's what I would be doing, and I guess maybe putting more of my time and energy into it. But I do what I can.
Outside of acting, I'm a career coach for actors. I actually help with the business side on the things that we've talked about. That is actually my full-time job. So I love what I do. I freaking love actors, and I love the business side. I like business. So it's interesting how I was able to combine the two, because truly my passion, my mission is to help actors take back the narrative and take control and focus on what they can control. And then there's a lot that we actually can control in terms of the relationships that we build, the package, the essence, the brand, all of these things. So I'm very fortunate in a sense that I feel like I'm doing this other thing that I wanted to do. But prior to that, I was in sales. My mom, my husband always just will say, make a great lawyer. So there's something about, again, business and fighting for change and fighting for my people, and my people are actors. So I feel like I'm truly in the right spot there.
That's so awesome, and your passion for it is so palpable, and you can feel it. And I'm so thankful I got to meet you through this.
Thank you.
Stay connected, because that's an amazing person to have in your corner as an actor, someone to help you navigate the business. How often do we have people?
My clients are, I'm like this big proud mama. My youngest is 14. My youngest client, and my oldest is 73. And and I have clients all over the States, Canada, Australia, and London. It's just seeing that no matter the age, the ethnicity, the market, the experience, it's following, the system as far as the relationship and the brand and the essence and the package, all of these things, the pillars, they work no matter the market, no matter the circumstance. And it's just, I feel like I'm much happier about their wins than even my own. Like when they get signed with representation, or they get their first network credit, or they get their like expansion with management, or like it's just like like I'm the happiest when that happens. So yeah. I don't know what I was gonna say. I'm gonna just shut up.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. For me, it's directing. They're kind of linked. It's like in the same world, but I love directing. I spend a lot of my time on it in the day, working on the projects that I have. So yeah, that's what I would do, is direct.
And you're doing it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, like I said before, I worked in human resources in higher education, and I don't think I'd want to go back to that. But I also used to teach music. I'm a singer as well. I have a church job, and I teach yoga, and I kind of teach in between as needed, and I work at a rock climbing gym. So I feel like if the acting, I just am not feeling it anymore. I have kind of other things to bobble around and then just figure out what's next. But I love acting, and I love having these other things to kind of help support that. And I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to put any limits on things. Like, it kind of freaks me out. Like, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm still like, I'm an actor. I don't know.
Is there a film that you saw recently that has changed your way of thinking about something?
Oh, Women Talking. Women Talking, the movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was like, I didn't know if you were like waiting for me to answer. That's the title of the movie.
No.
Okay. So I just watched it actually last night. I've been trying to watch all the Academy nominated films. And that one in particular was very interesting because it was presenting different arguments for when we as women are hurt, our response, and how it is very unique and individual. And it opened my eyes to see not only the different viewpoints from other women, but that I really don't know a lot about us as much as I thought. And I just, assume that what I feel I would do in a certain situation, or how I would view, pain and forgiveness, is clearly the most right, and that would be other women's experience or the way that they would see it. But I learned a lot about women by watching the movie Women Talking. And I think the film in itself, I'm not sure which awards it's up for. I hope it's best screenplay, because the dialogue was phenomenal. And I really had to listen to the women talking in the movie to truly understand that viewpoint and the arguments being presented. And it challenged my own beliefs and how I deal with pain and how I feel justice needs to be served. And overall, it was a very eye-opening experience. It made me see other women's point of view. And speaking from a women's experience, spending time with other women, I think that's a big compliment to the film. And I would highly recommend, being March is Women's History Month, and yesterday was International Women's Day, for women and men to watch it, because I think they did present some very interesting, unique, substantial arguments to also tell us about men as well. And I love films that I love to be engaged in a narrative. I'm not a big action genre where I just watch something and it entertains me. I like to be changed through art. So I appreciate films that cause you to introspectively look at myself. And that's how I like to consume art and how I consume film. So that would be the film Women Talking.
You sold me on it. I'm watching it tonight.
Good. It's great. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yes. Very well done. Thank you, Dan, for the question.
Absolutely. What about the rest?
For me, it is a film called RRR, which has come out of South India. And have you seen it, Emmy? Or
No, but I was supposed to see it. My fiance saw it, and it was crazy good.
Oh yeah. So are you based in the States? You are, right? You're LA. I don't know if it's on Netflix in LA, but it's on Netflix if you're.
It is. It's on Netflix. Yeah.
Oh, good. It's not available in the original language in Tamil, but yeah, it's out of South India. It's getting a lot of global recognition as well, which is really exciting. And I've grown up watching Bollywood films. My dad loves Bollywood films, and it was a big part of us growing up. And it's very different than Hollywood. Hollywood, they're always asking for realism and a grounded style of acting. Bollywood is a heightened, it's a fantasy escape style of acting. And like growing up, I kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, oh my God, singing and dancing, running through the meadow. The next shot, they're singing and dancing on a mountain in Switzerland. How did they get there? What is happening? But this movie took surrealism and it did not hold back on it. And its action is not something I typically watch or enjoy. I was shocked. Like it took me a moment to just allow myself to suspend my disbelief, and just allow myself to get into the world. But once I did, yeah, I was pretty blown away. It had all the elements of like classic Bollywood, the singing, the dancing, and everything. But this director did not hold back on the style, right? And in that sense, it just worked. Like he took the surrealism and went really hard with it, and it's phenomenal. I highly recommend checking it out. I think it is also nominated for some Oscars. I think it won a Golden Globe as well. I think I was reading on social media that they might perform one of the songs from it, which I'm really excited for. I don't know if that's true or not for sure, but amazing film. And I think if what you're mostly used to seeing is a Hollywood style of film, you'll be really blown away. And it's an incredible film that's come out of India.
Wow.
I love that. I can't wait to see it. I was actually just thinking about how many of the movies I watch actually reinforce what I already think and reinforce what I already believe. I was like gonna say Triangle of Sadness, but then I was like, that movie didn't actually like it was obviously incredible. Like I loved it. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. This is so fun. What a cool way to express ideas about class. And like it was just incredible. But I was like, I don't think it actually like made me change my beliefs on anything. It was just a really cool way to express what I was seeing in the world. So it was a great film, but I was like, honestly, I just watched Casablanca again, and it really like did change my beliefs on something, or at least my feelings on something. I was just like crying the whole movie because it was just so beautiful. And what it kind of did for me that did change something I was thinking and feeling was the simplicity of the performances really like affected me and the way I thought about acting. Like there's such Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart are such pros at what they do. And Humphrey Bogart has a lot of idiosyncrasies as an individual that make him kind of outside of what I'm saying. But Ingrid Bergman is like the prime example where she just stands there, feels the feelings and speaks. Like there's nothing added. There's no fumbling, there's no there's no thinking you need to be special or add something. She was just like in it. And the confidence required to just literally stand there and feel and speak. And, she moved very little, truly. Like it was just, a turn here. That's it. And it like really affected me. And it changed me as like a person. Even though I'd already seen the movie before, it like really, I don't know, it just gave me a lot of freedom, I feel like, and permission to be myself, and that what we have as the instrument of us and our voice and our body, it's enough, that it's enough. And that was huge. That really changed me.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it takes a really like
yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm just gonna add to that. I think it takes a really veteran actor and like an actor who's very like is not fazed by any of the chaos happening around them on set, who knows what they're doing to do that.
Yes, it's incredibly difficult to do. Like, it's masterful. Like, it was just like masterful acting. And I was like, oh, but it made me feel good. Sometimes, you know, when you see a film, especially as a director, I look at it and I'm like, oh God, why do I even try? Like, I'm never going to be able to do anything. You know, it makes me feel pessimistic a little bit. Like Lawrence of Arabia, I watched recently and I was like, oh, fuck. What the fuck? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, oh, fuck me. That just can never happen again. You know, that was like, what just happened? That was too much. Too much. It was too much. It was way too much. It was way too good. Bad. So good. It was so impossibly good that it like would make me feel bad. So when something happens that's masterful and actually inspires me, that's actually kind of rare. So I was really moved. Like, I couldn't stop crying because I was like, wow, I actually feel hopeful, instead of like, wow, women missed out on directing like at this scale just completely. It's like, we missed it, you know? So like all those extras in the location, I was like, this is unreal with Lawrence of Arabia. Sorry, sometimes my speech pattern, I jump around, but I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it made sense.
If you could change one thing right now about the film industry, what would it be and why?
More residuals.
Especially with streaming platforms. Like,
yeah, with streaming platforms in particular. Residuals for streaming platforms for everybody.
I say make... go ahead.
No, I was saying I'm down with that. Yeah.
Oh, you're down with that? Me too. Same. Put me in. I would say make all mandatory casting sites free of charge. Actors access, photos, videos, slingshots, all that shit free. $0 and 0 cents, please.
Yes, that would be great.
I don't know what it's like for actors in the States right now, but I don't know, in Toronto, at the Toronto market, but right now here in Vancouver, we're still not going into rooms. It's still very much a self-tape world. It's kind of stayed like that. And I miss that. I miss going into the room. I miss being able to just be like, hey, so this is kind of my interpretation of it. Is that sort of what you were thinking? I miss the redirects. I miss being able to read the energy of the room, to know what they're thinking, feeling about what I'm doing, and then being able to change it on a redirect. I feel like there's so much information that was so valuable, and also building that relationship with getting to see the casting director in person and say hi, hello to them. It makes more of an impression. But I also understand that there's pros to the self-tape world as well. But coming from a theater background, like I do well in the room, and I do well preparing and doing it in one take. So I miss that. I would love to see that come back more, mostly just auditions for callbacks. I get to go in person. But yeah, that would be my thing. I'd love to see more getting back into the room if possible.
I'm not close to any place where I'd be able to get there easily. So the self-tape has really made it easier for me to audition more, because that's what everyone's doing now. Like, I'm in the middle of New York State. The city is like 5 hours from me. I'm not going there regularly. And that's, you know, the next biggest place. It's starting to grow throughout upstate and Western New York, but even still, like, the self-tape stuff has definitely made it more realistic, and I guess in a sense easier for me to really continue on this path and journey, since I don't have to try to relocate, which I'm not going to do.
So true. That is definitely one of the pros of self-taping, is just the efficiency and the ease of it.
Mm-hmm. Especially, like, also as a parent, like, just finding like, I don't know, I have a 3-year-old, so it's teenagers is a little different, but like finding a person to watch when I drive somewhere, and I'm based in Hawaii, and being able to just tape, and I'm representing like all the major markets in the States, and I can just fly out to LA, shoot there, fly out to Chicago, shoot. Like, I wouldn't have those opportunities. And there's something beautiful, like, yeah, back in Chicago, like I remember Claire Simon for Chicago Fire PD only shows, like she would see 5 people per role. Now they're seeing 30 to 50. So the competition has definitely got stiffer. So like what I noticed with my clients and myself is like the booking ratio is going down because we have more opportunities, but less bookings because there's a shit ton of people now, and there's almost like, I think casting is saying like more actors, less projects, and like we had the record low pilot season, all that stuff, right? So yeah, it's pros and cons. I agree, but I think that there's a big deadline article that everyone's talking about now, right? So it's kind of real. I don't know if you guys, yep. Everyone's talking about self-tapes and the whole like the back and forth and the pros and cons, and yeah, there's a big conversation in the industry. But I think that going back to the self-tape conversation is, I don't think self-tapes are going back in person, personally. Just business, budget, everything else, it just doesn't make sense. Like the business is evolving with the technology, and everything is fast nowadays. But with the conversation I think we should have, which casting has already kind of opened up, is how much material is requested in the audition. So like, let's stop giving 10 to 16 page for a guest star when you have, the self-tape requirements, like, oh, we don't want a virtual reader, or we don't want you to have, some even say in the directions, go and shoot it in a professional recording studio, like that conversation has to exactly. It's like, well, conversation has to change. And then some people are saying about actors being paid for auditions, which I don't think should happen actually. But because I think that it will all go to A-list, B-list, C-list people that they already know, and everyone who's developmental will just not get any opportunities. But there's definitely a conversation that needs to be had about, the requirements of the auditions. But I don't think self-tapes are going back.
I love it.
Which is cool. Yeah, there's pros and cons to it for sure. But I do miss it because like my skill is well versed for doing well in that environment.
It would be cool if casting director workshops were not paid to play, and we just had access to casting directors maybe monthly, to just for meet and greets, or to like making that be accessible. I'm changing my answer. So not the casting sites being free, but having access to casting directors. Since now we don't literally have that besides CD workshops, which is an investment.
My comment was more on ideologically. I think that I really actually appreciate the shift to diversity and better representation. So I think there is positive change in the industry in terms of like ideologically, to incorporate more worldviews, a better representation of our world holistically. So I think that's a really positive direction. I think that just continuing to press on as women in the industry and, different diversities, different ethnicities, to continue to ride that wave and to keep that momentum going. Because a lot of very experienced and talented actresses or female actors that would have been phased out because they were irrelevant, because they were no longer young, sexy beasts in their 18 to 25. A lot of those women now are producers and executive producers and directing and writing their own content. And so, looking at the representation of women who are up for Best Female Actor, there are a lot over the age of 45. So, we're seeing a better content shift, I think, and setting it up better for the next generation to see more truth across the lifespan in terms of stories. It's not just 75-year-old women are grandmothers baking bread in their house, or it's there are 75-year-old nomads who are living out of their van. And so it's like better stories because we have better representation than we did. So ideologically, I think it's a positive shift in the industry, and I think it needs to continue in that direction, even if that means less roles for white females like me in my age range. I'm okay with that. I think that's great. I think that's better representation of the real world.
I totally agree. And I just want to add to that, is like majority of my clients that are booking right now are in the 30 plus category. And it's interesting how I think we're often fed this narrative again, like especially in LA, that young, fresh blood. Yeah, like, yes, that like it's easier when you're much younger, that they don't expect you to have a hefty resume, and it's easier to like even get representation. And especially if you read younger, it's towards the age range. but the boogers, the bookers, especially in procedural television, 30, 40 plus, like they're just like working nonstop. So whenever clients come to me in their 50s and 60s who are like always wanted to do this, but they put it on a back end and now they finally can pursue this, I'm like, you're in a perfect bookable age category to do this. And obviously, yes, if other things like so what am I trying to say? Yeah, like different older actors are actually, and different diversities too, but like specifically what I've noticed for my clients, 30 plus. So the whole thing, you have to be 16, 18, 19, like no. Because majority of the times, especially like when you developmental and you're building your resume, they're looking for more job specific role. So love interesty stuff, all of that is like indie. But if we're talking about television, or you're like a one day whatever with a main character, like, so like, yeah, it's just understanding how we fit in and the different age groups and different markets and shows.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I really like that shift, Leanne, of sort of like one of the positive shifts in the industry right now. And one of the things that I've really noticed about myself is now that we have streaming platforms, having access to be able to take in content from all around the world has been incredible. Because like for me growing up, it was Hollywood and it was Bollywood. I didn't know that there was film industries all over India, that there was a Tollywood and there was a Hollywood and all these other places out of different regions. And it's been so incredible with streaming platforms to be able to watch so much from all around the world that I didn't even know they had film industries, and to see different kinds of actors, not just a Brad Pitt looking actor or a Shah Rukh Khan who they have all the muscles and the good looks, but we're able to now access and see just like so much diversity. And I think that's been a really positive shift in the industry that I'm loving.
I love him, by the way.
Shah Rukh Khan.
I love Bollywood movies. I actually always was a fan. I literally remember
awesome.
when I was like, I don't know, maybe it's a Russian thing. It's 14, Zita and Gita. Do you know that? It's really old. Have you seen it? Have you not? I don't know. I love Bollywood. I love music.
Oh, that's so cool. Have you seen his new movie, Patan?
No, I haven't, but I watched a lot of his things. I love him. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Is it on Netflix?
It's not on Netflix right now. It's in the theaters right now. It's doing really well. It's a huge, huge movie that's just been released out of Bollywood. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right now, I've just been watching you, and that's been not healthy.
Wow. Now, finishing up here with this question, if we could describe this whole episode on a film, how do we call it?
Wait, on a film? I don't think I understand the question.
Yeah. So basically, let's say that this whole episode we just did, it's gonna be on a film, but it needs a name. So what would be the name of that film? Let's say, which could describe this episode we just did.
Women Talking and Dan.
Okay.
That way, when you put it in the search bar, it'll pop up because Women Talking is trending. So you're gonna get hits. They're like,
oh, that's smart.
Start kind of piggybacking off of.
That's gonna be the title of the video. That's why.
There you go.
Yeah, because that's why I asked this question. Like the meaning behind to it is to add that title now on the video so that people will be like interested. Oh, like what is it? What is this about? I'm gonna check it out. So that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of something basic like Confessions of the Working Actors, but I think
that's good too.
That's a good one. Yeah.
What about Women Talking? Confessions of a Working
and
Actor.
ideological brunettes.
Ooh, that's right.
What was it? I missed it.
Yeah.
Introspective and ideological brunettes.
That's amazing. I don't even think I know what that means entirely.
Just patting ourselves on the back.
I think a lot of our answers were very thoughtful and coming from an emotional place, and ideological, especially with Leanne's comments towards the end about where the industry has moved in the positive kind of aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really nice. It's a hard job. It's a really hard thing to sustain, and it's good to bear in mind those silver linings. And it was so nice. I was so excited to meet new actors and just be able to talk about craft and business with other actors. How often do you get to do that, especially in the self-tape world that we're in? So it was so nice to even just connect with all you ladies.
Great. Same.
And
Very
Dan.
therapeutic.
A lady up in Dan.
We should do this. We should do this as a thing outside of it.
Yeah. It was really nice.
Thank you, Dan.
I mean,
Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
At the end, what can I say? I mean, it's incredible, all of all the work you do, guys. I mean, as I said when I was starting out, with this episode, that I'm basically talking with my heroes and legends, because you basically are making it happen, and it's incredible because even I know how. I mean, I would assume how tough and difficult might be when you get an audition and to make this as a living. But regardless, you're making it happen, and that is so. I mean, that is like super badass. Just saying, and also the fact that every now and then, because as I've been mentioned in some of my episodes, that every now and then I will get the idea of quitting. Of course, it's obvious. But what inspires me to this day is that every now and then, whenever I will have like this idea, if I jump to Instagram and then I see one of your Insta stories here and there that you're booking something or you're doing here or you're recording there, that basically inspires me to be like, hey, they're doing it. So basically get up your butt and keep working up, because they're doing it too. So that's incredible. Keep inspiring, because as I've said before, I'm super sure there are hundreds of people out there who sees you as a role model, and those who are watching this, they're gonna get inspired as well. So that's incredible. Don't ever think that what you're doing is not worth it, because you're super amazing here. And I also want to thank those who watched this video. Thanks so much. Now this episode is about to be over, but in the description below you're gonna find up a lot of social media. But we need to make all of these people viral. So basically you're gonna find. I mean, let's make them viral. Come on. I mean, hashtag Team Amy, hashtag Team Emmy, hashtag Team Anastasia, hashtag Team Natasha, and hashtag Team Leanne, because they're all incredible, amazing women here. And again, thank you so much. Keep killing it and keep making
Take a quick Instagram selfie. If it's not on Instagram, it didn't happen. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
All right. We got it. Perfect. And keep killing it, keep being awesome, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.